Okay, so good morning, guys. Welcome back. We will continue with our Kubernetes session. Today is Kubernetes Day-7 session. And today the date is 16th of your March 2026. And the timing is morning 8:26 a.m. IST. Okay, so guys, in the day 6 session, we had majorly completed the uh, two types, that is the imperative and the declarative method, right? Imperative is something like where we construct a command line whenever we want to create any kind of a resources, right? So particularly I try to create a pod as a resource, right? So basically we use a imperative method, and also like we try to even use the declarative method also. And in yesterday's session, like we took an example of where we created a pod or nothing but a pod where the Nginx container is running, right? This is what we had majorly covered in yesterday's session. So what we are going to do today in day 7, we will continue from there itself. Like we will try to go with few more examples. If you go to the day 6 session, where we had ended up in creating an example. This is an example one actually, right? Where a pod is created with Nginx container. And we know that guys, when we try to write this YAML file, basically we have to refer to your API reference document actually, right? Kubernetes API reference document. Through that only, that's the official documentation where you have to go through it and try to construct a YAML template for your resource. So basically, we're trying to create a pod, right? So we try to have a pod as a pod resource. We try to create with the help of the we try to write, we try to construct a YAML file for that. Now, what we're going to do today. So today we'll continue. So what we'll do that we will go with the example two. Okay, where we'll do something like, let me construct one more a pod. Let me create a pod with Nginx as a container, and let us create one more container. Like for example, let us even create an Alpine container. Okay. So this is the second example. So it means that I have to refer to the API reference document and I have to write a YAML file for that, right? So what we'll do, basically, guys, we will go through here. We will go to our manifest, right? This is what the studies we have created a folder over here. Let me do this. Let me try to open in a Visual Studio Code. Okay. So I opened it, and also like let me go to the downloads folder because I need to log into my server. Sorry. And I'll just SSI from my key.pam ubuntu at the rate, do the public IP address of your master server. Okay, so let me log in, and because since I logged in, let me try to do an sudo apt update. Okay. Now is what we are doing. See, this is a Visual Studio Code actually, which I opened it. That's fine. Because I have to write a manifest file here itself in the Visual Studio Code, copy it over here and paste it over here, right? For example, here we have a manifest folder actually, and I'll try to create a files over here in this file. Now, Rajesh, is any way where we can connect this Visual Studio Code? Okay, try to do a remote connection to your to this Linux machine or to this master node server where it is running in your AWS account. Yes, you can do that way also. That will actually save our time actually, right? So now this is the Visual Studio Code. I want to connect it to my server. How to do that? So guys, it's a very simple process. Like what I have to do is first I have to click on this, and then like you have to go to the connect, go to SSH client. Here you could see that they are given like how to connect to it. So this is the command we have to execute in a Visual Studio Code, right? And also the most important thing is actually that wherever your PEM key is there, you need to have this permission. So what I have to do means I can open the git bash here, right? Get into my downloads folder, right? Come out, go to the download folders. You could see that where I have the PEM key, right? This is my PEM key, my key.pem, right? And then like just try to execute this command actually. So that is the first thing which you have to see that you are executing this command. so that the permission is changed actually. So 400 should be the permission for the my key PEM in my case. So wherever your PEM key is there, you have to go and execute that command actually. So once after that, what happened? You have to copy this whole line, copy this whole line. You can go to the Visual Studio Code, and here you could see that there is something like a connect is there. Can you see? If I just highlight you here to this icon, can you see open a remote window? Yeah, click on this. One second. Click on this. So if you click on this, you could see that you can do a remote SSH actually, connect to the host. So click on this remote host, add a new SSH host. Yes, try to copy the whole, paste this whole, but this my key, it is there under a download folder, right? So what you have to do that, you have to use a tilde symbol, home directory slash downloads slash and then my key, right? Wherever the key is there, you have to give the complete path here, right? And you have to just say enter. So after that, it is asking you to select this. So this is my home directory, fine. Select that and then just try to do a connect. Right? And select the Linux because it's a Linux operating system. Just select Linux. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes, you want to continue. So it is trying to download. See, can you see guys? It has opened it here. Now, how you can open the folder? Just go to the file. I'll just open folder. This will take some time, but eventually it will open it actually. So it means that I need not to do always like write the file over here, go to the Linux machine and try to copy paste. I don't want to do that because I directly logged into this Ubuntu server, right, from the Visual Studio Code, and I'm trying to do everything over here actually, right? What happened? Open the folder. It will take time, guys. Yeah, it's opening the folder. Can you see? It will take time, but yeah, eventually it will open it actually. So let it open. Okay. Meanwhile, we will try to do our exercise in other this one. So here, what happened? I will try to create one file here. Okay. Let it happen, guys, because it will take time. Okay. So now let it happen. So what I'll do that I'll try to create one more file here. So that is not the but the pod2.yaml file. Right? Okay. Good. Now. So now guys, we know that whenever we want to write a YAML file, I have to go to the official Kubernetes reference page documentation where I will get all the details. So I have to go to the reference page here. This is the link and you could see that actually you have to go to the one page API reference documentation that is version 1.35. That's the latest one which I'm using now. So click on this and here what happened at the left side, you will see that there is something like a pod core, right? Click on this. So this is here is what you will get into how to write a pod YAML file. Now, there are four important fields, API version, kind, and metadata. Let me write the whole thing here. So I will try to write an API version. So firstly, let us start with the three hyphens and then API version. So some people might ask, Rajesh, do you have to use three hyphens? Yeah, it is better that you use it. If you don't use it also, still it works. API version, and what is it actually? Kind, metadata, and spec. Kind, metadata, and spec. These are the four important fields, right? Now, what is an API version? The API version here is core. It belongs to the core group and the version is V1, right? So we already learned, guys, in our last session, we already learned that like when all the API, like it belongs to a certain group and it has a version. Like for example, API group, the format is what we learned in the last class. The format is API group slash and the version name, actually, version number. Here in this case, the API group name is core and the version is V1. Since, as I said right earlier also, that because there are many resources are there which are part of the core group, okay, you need not to explicitly mention the core group. You can just directly say V1. It is assumed that it belongs to that resource belongs to the core group only. So here what happened, if I come back here and if I try to go to the API version, I can either say core of V1 or I'll just say V1. Both are one of the same in this case. Suppose if you're using batch job, there in that case, you have something like a batch slash V1. So here you have to explicitly use the batch. Without that, it will not work. So batch, you have to use it actually, right? Batch is a different, again, a different API group actually, right? But whereas core, yeah, it's a very common group, right? Because many resources are part of the core group. Hence, you can omit. Hence, you can omit means I mean, if you're not using a core group, still it is okay. It considered as it is a core group itself, right? So I'll just say V1. Okay. Now, what about the kind? Kind is nothing but the pod. You could see that P is an uppercase. So kind, right? And after that, what is there, guys? You have a metadata. Metadata, the type of metadata is object meta. So object meta is that it itself is an object meta. So whenever we come across the object meta or whenever you come across something like an object, we know that how to do it. So you have to go to the next line, give two spaces and start from here. Okay. Now, what are the different fields are there as part of this metadata? So let me click on this object meta. So here in the object meta, guys, there are so many fields are there here, right? Right now, I'm not going in detail about all these fields, but one of the things which I'll be using is a name and a string actually. This is what I'll be using it actually, right? So name is something like, I will just say name. So here, what is a string actually? I can give anything because in the pod one example, I use something like hello pod. Here in this example, because I want to create multiple containers. Actually, I'll just say multi-container. I'll just say multi-container. This is the name I'm giving it actually, right? Okay. So guys, only one field as of now I'm using it, but this is quite interesting the meta object because I will be using many other fields in our upcoming sessions like annotations, creation timestamp, right? Labels actually, which is very important, namespace. These are certain very important fields which I'll be using as part of this under the metadata. As of now, in today's class or in few sessions, I'll be using only one field, which is name and the string actually. Name and the string and the type is string actually. That's what I'll be using this name and the type is string actually, right? So once that is done, let us get back to here. Let me go back to the documentation. I will go back. So that field is completed. After the metadata, you have something like a spec. Spec is of a type of pod spec. Pod spec is also an object type actually. So hence what you have to do that, you have to go back here and you have to go to the next line, give two spaces, and you have to, click on this pod spec actually. So pod spec, again, there are so many fields are there. I'm not really going with all the fields as of now. I'll be going with some of the two important fields. One is nothing but the only one, which is nothing but your, where is it guys? Containers actually. This is what with one field I'm going into, right? So container, so let containers, right? It is an array type actually. So array type means I have to go to the next line, give two spaces and starts with a hyphen, right? And here I have to click on the container array. So I have to just click on this container. It will take me to the page where it will give you the information about what are the fields which are there as part of this container. So here also there are many fields are there, guys. I'll be going only with two important fields. One is a name and other is a image, right? So the name, so I'll say hyphen name. So I'm creating two containers. So let me give something like a first and the image which I am using will be an Nginx actually. Right? Because I'm creating a multi-container. So because and it is an array actually, right? So I can have some more fields like this. If a name, second, give image, and because I'm constructing two containers, the second one is an Alpine container. The image name is Alpine. Am I clear, sir? Right? Now, if you remember, when it comes to the Alpine container, what exactly in Alpine? Alpine is a lightweight Linux kind of a Linux OS image actually, right? And we know that you remember like when we were learning the Docker actually, and when I was trying to create a Docker container where I'm using an Alpine image, how I used to do it? I used to do like somehow like this: Docker container run Alpine like this. I used to run it actually. But when you try to create a container with an Alpine as an image, basically what happened, right? The Alpine will never run because what are the CMDs there as part of the Alpine, right? There are no CMD instructions are there. Hence what happened, right? This container will get created, then Alpine image will be loaded. It will try to create a container, and immediately you know that actually that container will get exited out, right? The container will get exited because there is no CMD as part of an Alpine because this is not an application; it's an OS actually. So as part of this OS, whatever the CMD which is being intern built within this Alpine image, right? What are the CMDs there? That doesn't have any instruction at all. So this container will never run, right? So the container which has an Alpine image will never run. Now you say that, okay, no, I want to run this Alpine as a container. I want to keep running. Then you need to pass some parameters. What is that? You run something like this. Docker container run Alpine and you pass some parameters, something like sleep of 1D. So if we try to pass this, so this too will act like a CMD. I mean, arguments for the CMD. So it means that now what happened, like your container will start running where Alpine image is loaded and you are making it to sleep for 1 day. Right now you see that your container will be running up. Now same thing guys here what happened in when you're trying to run a Docker container, this is how it happens. But here what happened in case of your second container, because second container you just mentioned Alpine, but you have not mentioned any argument. So what usually happen? Let us see the behavior first, and then later we will try to understand it. Am I clear, sir? Or else what you can do that, okay, you will say that Rajesh, this Alpine image also will be running as a container, yes. But what happened that container will be keep getting restarted always, right? It'll be keep running, right? It'll be keep restarting. So what do you mean by that? Or else what happened? I want to make it live, Rajesh. Always the container which is running inside the pod, right? Because this container will be running inside the pod, right? What about the second pod? Sorry, second container. So second container within that pod will be restarting always, or it will get killed because that there is no arguments you're passing. Like how we used to pass here when you're trying to create a Docker container. Suppose I want to pass an argument like sleep of 1D here also. I want to pass it. Then in that case, guys, you need to send some kind of an argument. So how to send that? So let us see in a documentation if you have anything like that. See here, for example, in your container section, right here in your container section, I use the name and I use this image. Suppose I want to pass some parameter for this Alpine. Is there any way to pass it? So can you see it's something like a command, right? And you can pass a string array. Yes, I can use this. Yes, you can use it. So what I'll do that, I'll just enter. I'll just say command. Because it is an array, string array, I have to give two spaces. I have to say hyphen. And here you need to pass in values. Like I'll just say sleep. I'll just say 1D. Right? So for this Alpine, you're passing this as a command line argument or CMD so that this Alpine container be keep running. Am I clear, sir? So now, so we have written a multi-container now. So let us try to run this. So I'll copy this, go over here and try to get into your manifest folder. So I'll just say pod-2.yaml, paste this file, right? Save this file. So let me just check whether is there any containers are running. Sorry, is there any pods are running in my system? There are no pods are running. Right now, what I'll do guys, I'll try to apply it actually. So what I'll do, I'll just say kubectl apply -f pod 2-yaml. So pod is created. So if you try to do a kubectl get pods, you will see that the pod is getting created. So it is in a container creating state actually. So again, you try to do it. So it is in a running state. So you can make out that guys, it has created a pod and inside a pod, inside this multi-container pod, there are two containers are running. That's what 2 by 2 it is showing it. Right? Correct? Okay, good. Now I want to check or I want to describe about this pod. Yeah, you can just say kubectl describe pod and specify the pod name. The pod name is multi-container is a pod name, right? Enter. See, this is what the information you're going to get about the pod actually if you try to do a describe command, right? You'll get all the details about your container, and you could see that actually this is what the IP assigned for your pod. And in under the container section, you could see that you are created two containers actually. One is with the name first. So as per here, you could see that you have created a name you are given as a first, and here it will give you the details about the container, container ID, image, and many other information. Same thing, you are running one more container, which is nothing but the second. And here you are trying to run the Alpine image over here, and you are passing an argument, and this is nothing but your, and this is nothing but your event logs, right? What exactly happens for creating this pod, right? All those event logs you're going to get from this section. Is it fine, guys? Right? Okay. So now let me go and delete this pod actually. So to delete this pod, you can just say kubectl delete -f, specify the file name pod2 -yaml. So either you can delete like this, or else you can just say kubectl get pods, right? And you want to delete this kubectl delete pod and specify the pod name. You can do either this way, or either you can do it like this also. So you're deleting the pod. Right, guys? Okay. Fine. Good. Now,
Rajesh,
yes.
one doubt, like how we can, like it's not doubt, it's something I want to ask, like how we can memorize or we
Mhm.
can get used to it or by writing the
Mhm.
manifest file repeatedly or
Yeah,
what is
repeatedly
how to
you have to
identify
repeat
this
it.
is an array or it is an object, like that's what I'm asking.
No, yesterday we understood about when we try to learn about the YAML in day 6
Yeah,
session or in day 5 session, we try to
yeah,
understand, right? What is an object? What this is an object. So whenever you define multiple key values, it is an object actually.
yeah,
Whenever it is an array, like for example, like area I mentioned, right? This is an array. Now, when you try to get into the documentation, they mention it very clearly. If there is
yeah,
anywhere they mention as an array, you have to consider that as an array type. If they're not here, you could see that this is an array type, right? Because they mentioned as array, right? This is simple string actually. You could see that image pull policy and string. Here, life cycle, it's a life cycle object type because they have not mentioned any array. There is nothing like a string. There is nothing like a number also. See, can you see here? So you have to consider this as an object actually. Same thing with the object. So whenever you're using an object, you have to use this field like this. You have to use this field like this. Give two spaces like this, and then go to the documentation. Click on this probe. So it'll take you to the probe where it will show that these are all the fields are there. Okay, it is an object type. Okay, exec and exec action. So again, what happened? If I want to use exec, what I have to do that, guys? I have to give exec colon. Okay, exec action again. It is not an array. It is an object. Again, I have to click on the exec action. See, exec action is nothing but these are the fields are there. Okay, I have to use this. So let me use this value. Okay, linen percentage, something like this. Give two spaces, right? And the value is something like between 0 to 100. By default, it is 0. Okay, let me mention a 0 like this. So live probe, it is a field actually which comes within a container, right? And that there is a, it is an object of, it has a, the object is exec actually. Again, within exec actually, you have one more field by name, a linen double percentage, and then you are just checking like what is the value. Say that default value is 0, so you're making that as a 0. Like this, what happened, right? You will be constructing the YAML file by looking into the document. So this will, if you start practicing, Naveen or Karthik, like whoever asked, you will get an idea very soon, like how to construct this YAML file,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay, Rajesh, yeah,
Right.
thanks.
Yeah. So no problem. If today you're not understand now, as of now, no problem. If you keep watching it, like when I start writing many files, right, you will get an idea. right? You'll get a clear idea. So you could see that I'm completely dependent upon this API reference document only. This is how it should be. It's not like that you go to, like for example, if you just go there, example, example of pod using a liveness probe. If you try to go with this, no doubt you will get an examples like this. See here, if you come down, you're going to get an example like where you're using liveness probe. See, you can just copy paste the whole thing like this and work. It'll work. But you need to understand, right, what exactly Linus pros, what is this exact, what is this command, how you're going to able to get all these things. You should be able to depend upon, you should be depending upon the API reference document. So just going through the existing one and then try to copy paste, like it will not really make you to learn much actually, right? And as I said in yesterday's class also, tomorrow if your lead or manager, he try to come up and say, that, okay, there is some other fields are there, man. Try to export the fields and try to do some modification to a template file. So how you will modify it without understanding, right? You need to understand it. So that's how, don't take it any short way of learning anything. Just follow the API reference document. Okay, fine. Now, okay, that was a second example. I think guys, let me go to this one and let me check. See guys, it's already, so slash home Ubuntu, right? In our case, you could see that if I try to do PWD, it is slash home Ubuntu. It is login here. So I'll say okay. So it'll take again time and it'll try to load over here like this. Let it go anyhow, right? And we'll see one more example, right? This is a second example and third example. Okay. And also let me copy paste that YAML file. Okay, this is the YAML file example. Okay, now let us go with the example 3. So what is an example 3? Okay, so what I'll do, a pod with Alpine container without the CMD. So without the CMD, it means that without this CMD, without this, I want to construct it. So it's quite simple, right? It is the same thing, right? And here what you're doing, guys, you are just trying to, like write a YAML file where you would be, so how you're doing that? Let me go to the Visual Studio Code. Let me create one more file, pod3.yaml file. All right. And what I will do, guys, I'll just try to copy paste the whole thing. So because it's the same thing only, I need not to again refer to the reference document to construct it. So I'll just keep the name as an Alpine Alp container something. And then like I will be removing this section. Okay. And once again, I think I removed it extra thing. Yeah. Just remove these two lines. Yeah. I'll just say Alp and let me remove this because my requirement is that I should have without the, what is without the CMD actually, right? This is what the file is all about, right? So let me copy this whole thing. Let me go to the server and let me have pod-3.yaml file, right? A simple Alpine can. Now, so what I'll do for this, let us do one thing. Let us try to have a duplicate of this server. So let me have a duplicate tab, right? Let me go to the download folders. Let me go to the, let me copy this whole thing. Let me copy the public IP of the master node because I need one more instance, guys. That's what SSH-I, my key, and give the public IP. So I've logged in. So this is the two tabs where, so what I will do that in the other tab, okay, what I will do, guys, I will just try to get into the manifest folder and then I'll just try to do a kubectl get pods hyphen, I'll just set W. So W means it will keep watching it, right? It means that if there are any activities going on. So for example, if I try to do kubectl get pods hyphen W, you could see that there is no pods are there. That's what it just waits for like pod to create it or wait for the changes to happen. So nothing is over here. Now what I'll do, I'll come over here and I'll try to do a kubectl apply -f and specify the pod3.yaml file. So I just applied it, guys. You go to the other tab and you could see that actually that you could see that the Alp container, it is in a pending state. Now it has been creating state. Now it is showing as a completed. And again, you could see that actually it is getting into the other state known as a crash loop back off, right? And you will also see that after some time, again, it will come to a running state. You could see, just see it go to the complete state. Again, it will go to the crash loop back. Now, if you see it very carefully, guys, you could see that actually that if you go here and if you try to run a kubectl get pods, you could see that actually that under here you could see that 0 by 1. It means that there has to be one container which has to get created inside a pod, but it's showing as 0. It means that there are no containers which are running inside a pod, but still the pod exists. Okay. And it's showing you something like a completed status. Okay. And also you could see that inside the pod, whatever the container which are running, like Alp container, that container has been restarted twice. Right? If you go here again, and if you see it again, what happened? You could see that there is a third time it has been restarted. Again, try to re-execute the same command. You'll see that it has restarted 3 times. Now, what is exactly happening, guys? And also you will see some status over here. Like for example, when the container got created at the initial stage, it was in a pending state. After that, it came to something like a container creating state, and then it is showing as a complete state. And there's one more new state which we are seeing is a crash loop back off. Now, what is this? Basically, now here, what happened, right? When I try to do a kubectl apply and a pod 3, this YAML. So what here it happened, guys? It tried to create a container with this. It tried to create a pod with the name Alp container. And inside the Alp container, it tried to create this container with the image Alpine. But this image Alpine has got loaded as part of container. It is started running, but you know that this Alpine is not an application image. It's a OS image. So there's no CMD. There's nothing like a CMD which will be keep making this container with an Alpine image. So what happened, right? It will get exited out. It get exited out. But we know the nature of the Kubernetes is that actually Kubernetes will always try to keep a desired state or it maintains a desired state. So for that reason, what happened? It will be keep restarting that container again. It restarted actually. So in Kubernetes, there is something we call it as a restart policy. Restart policy. So what is a restart policy means? What is a restart policy means? Restart policy by default, the restart policy is always. It means that actually, due to certain reason, assume that inside a pod, if the container get failed, what the Kubernetes will do? Kubernetes will try to restart that container. Since here in this case, what is happening that it will keep getting failed because it got started up, it getting failed. As part of it, what happened that when it get exited out, you will get a status of something like a crash loop back. It means that there is no CMD is there as part of to make your container up and running. So it get crashed actually, it goes to a state known as a crash loop back off. Right? And you could see that how many restart it has happened, right? See, 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, 4 time, 5 time till now it has been restarted. And it'll be keep doing restart because there is a restart policy is there, which has been set to as always. Right? If you set something like a restart policy as never, suppose you set this as never. So then what happened, right? For the first time when you're trying to create a pod, it will try to start that container, but the container doesn't have any CMD, it get failed. Now what happened? Restart policy, if you set it as a never, it means that it'll never get restart. So your pod will also get killed. Here what happened? The pod is still running. It shows that it is running actually. But what happened, right? Because of the restart policy, guys, what is happening that the pod is not, the pod still exists, but it is showing as a 0 here. It means that there are no containers inside the pod which is running. 0 containers. It means that there is no container which are running inside pod. But still this container exists. Still that pod exists. Am I clear, sir? So now I could see that 6th time also, it will keep getting restarted. Right? So this is just to show you like what are the different states are there, because in our upcoming session we'll be discussing more about the pod and the pod status. Actually, these are the different types of pod status, right? So we'll come across with all these things, guys, in our upcoming sessions. Am I clear?
If you want to start that
Huh.
container,
Hmm.
can
Then
we
you need
start?
to, yes. Then what you have to do? You have to you have to send an argument, right, to this, right? Like sleep of 1D. So now what happened? You have to stop that container, stop that pod actually, like kubectl, delete pod, delete hyphen f, pod 3 dot yaml. You have to just delete that pod, and again you have to create a file. I mean pod hyphen 3 dot yaml, and then like here you have to pass that argument of sleep of 1D. Then again you try to do an apply, then it will running actually. Then it will run. Am I clear, sir?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
guys. I think here in you could see that here. Okay, it is saying the trusted folder. See, click on the trusted folder. I think there is some problem is there. I tried to do it, but yeah, now yeah, now you could see the guys. See, you got the manifest folder. See, inside this all these files are there. See, pod3.yaml, pod1. See, you got connected, and also you got a terminal also like this here, right? So you can directly create over here. Now I need not to have this one, right? I can close it directly, right? And you can try to do it here itself. When you try to do it here, what will do that? It'll try to create the file here in the server only. So here what happened, you're having a pod3.yaml is there, right? Here what I will do that, I will try to create one more YAML file here only, right? Am I clear, sir? Now, let us have one more example, okay? Now, for example, this is, okay, YAML file. Okay. Example 4. Okay. So now, so what is example? A pod with the alpha content without CMD. Okay. So next example will be a pod with the environment variable. So what do you mean by environment variable? So guys, you remember that like you can pass some environment variables also. Like for example, if you remember when we are trying to learn about the Docker, and during the Docker, when you're trying to learn, assume that I want to create a MySQL container. So we need to pass some arguments, right? Or you need to pass some environment variables, right? For example, MySQL underscore root underscore password. You remember some four environment variables we used to pass it. So how we used to do it? We used to use something like hyphen E option, right? You remember? We used to use something like hyphen E option. Now, for
Yes, sir.
example,
Yes.
yeah. So for example, I want to create a Docker command line to create a MySQL container. So how is to do that? Docker container run. I use a hyphen D to detach mode, hyphen F in name. What is it? MySQL DB. Okay. Let me know then. Let me try to construct in the next line. So I have to slash that. And then like I will be using something like a hyphen E option. And what are the four parameters? So you remember MySQL underscore root underscore password. So I have to specify the password. Let me specify the password as something like a DevOps slash hyphen E option, MySQL, or is it underscore database is equal to, I will use the database. I'll give the name as NOP database slash hyphen E option. What is it? MySQL underscore user is equal to, I'll give the same name as DevOps only slash, and then like I'll use hyphen E MySQL underscore, what is it? Password. Yeah, is equal to DevOps, right? Slash, and then like you need to specify your image name. MySQL, I will be using something like 5.7, or you can use either latest or 5.7 like this. This is what the command line we used to write it for creating this MySQL container. So shall we run this? Where to run this? Let me do one thing. Let me have, instead of having a server now where I need to install Docker and all, I don't want to do that. I'll go with something like a playground with Docker. You remember like playground with Docker, right? So for that, what I will do, let me first cross verify one time, guys. So how to cross verify? hub.docker.com. So I will go to my Docker registry, that the public repository. I will go to in search of MySQL image. Okay, I'll go to the official Docker official image itself. So I'll go with the official image. So click on this MySQL, and if you come down, they would have given somewhere about all these parameters, right? See, can you cross verify MySQL root password? Yes. MySQL root password, MySQL database, yeah, MySQL database, MySQL user, yeah, user, and MySQL password, right? Other things and all, there's no need to use other things. These four are sufficient, right? And playground with Docker, right? So I'll just go to the Google and just say playground with Docker, because I need an environment where Docker is already there actually. So I will go with this link actually, right? Okay, go and let me start it. Deprecated. Okay, gone case. They removed it actually. So play with will be unavailable starting from March 1st onwards. Visit Docker docs for supported labs and guides. Gone case. Okay. So what I'll do is, because I know that under the node 1, I have installed the Docker. Let me log into the node 1, copy the public IP, go to the other instance, go to the terminal, go to the download folders, ssh-i my key ubuntu give the public IP of the node 1. Okay. S. Okay. Just to sudo apt update. Okay. Okay, now what I'll do, guys, I will try to first check whether Docker is there or not. Yes, obviously Docker is there. If I try to execute Docker info, Docker is there actually. So what I will do, I'll try to come over here and try to run this command. So I'll try to copy this whole thing and go here. So guys, you see that I'm executing this in the node 1, because node 1 as well as the master, both in both the places, Docker is installed already, right? So that's what I'll just try to run this command. So copy this whole thing. So now the Docker container is running now. How do you check it? You can either do a Docker container ls, or you can just do a Docker ps. Anything you can use it to just check or verify your Docker container is running or not. So if I try to do a Docker container ls, you could see, guys, your MySQL container is running here. Can you see here? MySQL container is running, right? Or else you can just say Docker ps, right? Now, so here this container is running. Docker PS, the container is running. I want to log in inside this container. So how do you do that? So we know that, Rajesh, for doing it, I have to use a Docker command, Docker container exec, what is it, -it, and specify your container, that is MySQL DB. That's a container name, right? Space. I want to log in because this is the MySQL container which is running, right? So I have to use a -u user. I will give the user as a root and the -p password, right? So I'll say enter. What is it actually? Not found in a path. Docker container, Docker container exec -it, MySQL DB, unable to start the process -u. Why is it hyphen? Oh, sorry. Sorry, man. I missed it out. Here you have to give MySQL client, right? MySQL space -u root and -p password. Yeah. So last for the password, what is the password, guys? The password is root is DevOps only. So I'll give DevOps. See, you have logged in inside your MySQL container actually, right? Now, so if I try to clear the screen, and if I try to do something like a show databases, So can you see here? Then NOP database has been there. See, this is the database you create, right? So NOP is there. So basically what happened, guys, I'm trying to create this a container by using this command line. By using this Docker command line with various different environment variable passing, I'm able to create it. So Rajesh, can I do the same thing with the pod? Actually, I want to create a pod inside a Kubernetes cluster. Whatever you did here in the Docker container, same thing I will have to do it through a YAML file. Yeah, you can do that also. So what I'll do that, let me go over here, let me exit out and let me Docker uh, container, what is it actually? rm-f remove and specify the container name MySQL DB. So I'm removing this container. So when I try to do Docker PS or Docker container ls, you could see that you have removed it. Am I clear, sir? Now, right? So now what I'll do, guys, now my main object is to write a pod with an, so write any pod with a pod with an environment. Between that, I will try to write a pod for your MySQL where I will be trying to trying to run the container inside the pod actually. So I'll create a pod with a MySQL as a container actually. So for that, what I'll do, I'll go to the Visual Studio Code or I'll go over here because I opened it. So let me click on this. I'll try to create a file. So what is a file I'll create? I'll just say pod-4.yaml. Right? So guys, I created here. Now you could see that if you go to your server here, I think I've lost the connection. See, if you go to the manifest file, you could see that you have created a pod4.yaml. See, pod4.yaml, right? So now let me write the pod file here. Am I clear, sir? So we'll start with the 3 hyphen, and we know as usual we have 4 fields. AKMS, that is AK means API version, K means kind, okay, AKMS. The next is metadata, and the last is spec. AKMS. This is what you have to find. These are the 4 important fields. Now you might have a question, Rajesh, do you have to use always these fields are there, or there are many other fields are there apart from these 4? So guys, there are many fields are there. We will be slowly understanding about other fields, but these are the 4 important fields which will always be available in any YAML file. In any Kubernetes YAML file, you will see API version, kind, metadata, and spec. Apart from these 4, many other fields are there. Slowly, you will be learning all those other fields as well. Right? But these are the 3 important fields. Now, we know that API version, we know that's V1, and the kind is always pod. We know for this. Metadata, we know that actually I'll give 2 space. As of now, I'm just using only 1 field, that is a name. And what is the name you're giving, guys? I will give something like MySQL only, right? MySQL DB. This is what the name I'll be giving it. Okay. So under the spec, we know that I'll go to the API reference documentation, right? Where I'll go back to here again, go to your pod, and in the pod actually under the spec, right? Under spec, it is of a object type with the name pod spec. Click on the pod spec, and here you could see that it is having container and many other fields. As of now, I'll be using only container, right? So I'll just give enter, give 2 spaces, and I'll just say containers, right? Suppose you missed it out, yes, and you are just using this. This is also an error actually. So later when you try to run, when you try to apply it, you'll get an error saying that, okay, there's some field is there. Now, when you try to go through this pod YAML file again, you will see that, okay, you have missed that, yes. So like that, you have to debug it, right? Sometimes some spelling mistake or some fields are missing, right? For that also you'll get an error actually when you try to apply it. So you can able to easily diagnose or easily able to fix it actually, right? And here, if you go over here, guys, it is a container array type actually, right? It's a container. This container is of a type container array. So for the container array means what you have to do, you have to go to the next line, give 2 spaces and start the hyphen, right? Now you have to go and click on the container. Okay, so we know that there are two important fields are there. One is a name which I'll be using, and another is an image actually. These are 2 important things which I'll be using it here. Over here, name, I'll give something like a MySQL, MySQL and image. What is the image you're using? I'll use something like MySQL colon 5.7. That is what I'll be using it actually. Am I clear, sir? Now, what you're doing that, guys, you need to pass an environment variable right here like this. What are the environment variable you're passing? That same thing you have to pass over here also. For that, is there any way to pass an environment variable? Can you say somewhere there's a list of environment variable to be set in container? Can you see, use this one, env? Can we use this env? Yes, we can use this env. And it is of a type env array. It's an array. Okay. So then what I'll do that, I'll just go to the next line. I'll say env. Okay. It is an array actually. So array, I know that we have to go to the next line, give two spaces and start with the hyphen. Just wait for what are the values. So env, it is of a type env array. Let me click on the env var, right? And let me see what are the fields it has actually. So it has only three fields are the name, value, and again something like a value from. You can right now I'm just want to use this two only. Okay, name and value. So I know that name and value. So it means that I'll just say name. What is the name? MySQL underscore root underscore password. Okay. Then value. What is the value for that? I'll give something like a DevOps. Okay. There are many other fields are there, right? Because it's an array, you have to use hyphen name. MySQL underscore database. Database. Right? What is it? Value. I'll use same thing, NOP, right? Name, what is it? MySQL underscore, what is it? User. Value, DevOps. Again, name, MySQL underscore, what is it? Password, right? Yeah. Come on. Why it is not choosing? Value, DevOps. Is it fine, guys? Anything else is required? That's all right? Right? This is what it is, right? So this is how you are passing an environment variable. So the way we did it in a Docker container, same I'm trying to do it in a pod YAML file actually. So shall we run this? Yes, sir. So let me copy this whole stuff and try to go over here. And I think I might have lost I have lost it. I think here also I've lost the connection. No problem. Let me wait and let me get into the manifest folder. Here you have something like pod4.yaml. If I try to do cat pod4.yaml, you will say this is what the file you have it actually. Right? So I'll go over here. Here also I might need this again. Right? Let me go to the manifest file, and what I'll do, I'll just say kubectl get pods -w. Means it'll just wait, wait or watch, we say. So I'll go over here, and what I'll do, guys, I will try to do a kubectl apply -f pod-4.yaml. So as soon as I apply it, can you see here, guys? It has first it was in a pending state. Now it just changed to the container creator. Now you could see that it is in a running state. Am I clear? So you can come over here and you can just say kubectl get pods. You could see that this is the pod which is running MySQL DB. Now you want to just describe it. How you do it? Kubectl describe pod and specify the pod name. That is MySQL DB. So MySQL DB is a pod name. See, this is what you will be able to get to know more information about your pod when you try to describe it actually. Right? And inside the pod, you're running a MySQL container, right? And with all these four in one variables. Am I clear, sir? Now here, the way we try to do an exec, we try to get inside the container by using a Docker container exec, right? Is there any way like to get inside your container, inside your pod actually? So for that, what you have to do that, you have to come over here and you have to just say kubectl exec-it. What is it actually? The pod name is, what is it actually, guys? The pod name is MySQL DB, right? That's the name of the pod, right? This is what the MySQL DB. MySQL DB, right? And then I will use a hyphen, okay, because I need to log inside container. So you have a MySQL hyphen username. You can give a root or I can give DevOps actually. -p is a password. So what's the password? DevOps is a password. So you could see that you are logged in inside your MySQL. So here, if you execute the command, so you execute the query show databases, you will see that NOP database has been created, right? Am I clear, sir? Yes. Now exit out from the here, try to do a kubectl delete -f and specify pod-4.yaml. So it say that it is terminating and it is showing as a completed status. Okay, guys. Okay. So guys, I think that's what for the day today. We'll stop it, the class today. Okay. So now what we'll do, we will try to uh, get into some more examples in the next class. Okay, where we'll be learning few more things about this pod and all, right? And also the next class would be tomorrow morning we'll take the next class. So the next session would be we will be understanding about we will get be understanding about or we'll getting into something like introduction to the pod and the pod states of the pod or different states of the pod. This is what would be the next topic what we'll be learning. Am I clear, sir?
Yeah, okay, Rajesh. Yeah.
Okay. So now in the next session, we will try to understand even a few other things also, or else let me don't think, guys. Let me uh, introduction to the pod, different states of pod, and also we will be trying to learn about something like a pod resources and limits. These are the important things which we'll be learning in our next session, actually. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you then. We'll meet tomorrow morning. Hmm? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.